fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got tracks and he's got rid of the outside of both of them. Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up top.
Oh my God! Oh, big crash. Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled.
Six very close. These guys are going to want to make their way through the field very quickly. This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my God!
God, what?
Just Send It is back in season 2020. For season number 4 we're up to now for Just Send It, and Tuesday night has become well known as the night where everybody gets out there and just sends it. We've had some cracking action in the first 3 seasons of this not really serious series, but a series that gives drivers the opportunity to test their skills in a relaxed environment. Good evening, everybody. I'm Lockie Madsen. Welcome to the SimSpeed TV network for week 1, season 4 of the Just Send It iRacing series. And for something a bit different tonight, we're introducing a brand new car. It's the BMW M4 GT4, which has very recently made its debut on the iRacing platform. And what better way to test a new machine than to put it through its paces in the cut and thrust environment of Just Send It competition. Now tonight, it won't be just the BMW M4s that you'll be seeing on the track. It will also be the Porsche Cayman GT4 car. So we've got 2 of Germany's finest manufacturers, Porsche and BMW, set to go head to head. And the venue for this test will be the technical Sonoma circuit. Joining me in commentary, as always, it's a very good evening to Ryan Jones. Ryan, we've got a GT4 battle tonight. What are you most looking forward to?
Well, seeing some live pictures on our screen, because that was terrifying, Lockie.
I've actually just had messages suggesting that I need to get a better webcam, which, to be fair, that was just the webcam on my laptop. So I'll take responsibility for that one. It was my suggestion that we start off with me doing a piece to camera. But yeah, anyway, I think you'll all agree that pictures of fast, exciting race cars on the Sonoma circuit are much more interesting to look at than my ugly mug on the TV screen.
Yes, well, yeah, you're not getting any debate on that one, unfortunately. We only got 2 minutes left in practice here before we get this one underway. We're, of course, keeping our same format that we love in this Just Send It series, a 40-minute race ahead of us. We'll throw a random safety car in there at some point, too, to bunch the field up together and cause some drama. That's a slick-looking livery on that Brenton Hobson car, the number 88, for Synergy Sim Racing. He's starting towards the pointy end of the field on this one. Another consideration to take into account tonight, Lockie, is that both the Porsche and the BMW both run the new damage model, as we can actually see. Hobson's another one of our drivers. You need his webcam. That's much better quality.
Yes. Oh, well, maybe that could be another thing to add to the list of components to upgrade for my online setup. In fact, I'm just being told that maybe I can set my phone up as a webcam using an app called DroidCam, so maybe that's something that I can look at for the future. But anyway, we won't have too many discussions about technology other than the technology that's being used by our sim competitors and in these race cars. And of course, the BMW M4 GT4 and the Porsche Cayman GT4 are both cars that we've seen racing in Australia in the Bathurst 12 Hour.
Kobe. Every time we've seen Kobe on a webcam, Lockley, haven't we? Remember last race, he spun.
In the Speed Cafe GT3 A-Series, yeah, maybe we need to stop cutting to the webcam of Kobe Williams. But the point that I was making is both the BMW M4 GT4 and the Porsche Cayman GT4 will be cars that are familiar to Australian spectators because they're both cars that have achieved class victories at the Bathurst 12 Hour.
Certainly good race cars, and the BMW was a very welcomed addition to the service when it came in last week. It's still incredibly new. and is already incredibly popular with some good paints to boot as well. Hey, there's 5 seconds left. We're about to get this thing underway. That's Job Stewart, who is going to be at the pointy end today. He always is. And he's even an academy driver for Erebus. And so, you know, he's got the talent in sim racing and the real world. Who else has got the sim racing talent as we look to the starting grid for this one?
So, no surprise at all to say that Cooper Webster has taken pole position. It's his 7th pole position in the just ended iRacing series. Jackson, Suzel and Harlow joining him on the front row. We saw that they had a cracking battle in the ARG Esports Cup finale last week. Brenton Hobson goes from 3rd spot ahead of Blake Purdy. And it's Job Stewart ahead of Dylan O'Keefe, back to Jack Boyd, Steve Jansen, Tyler Howard, James Golding completing your top 10.
Good to see Golding in the field there, starting at the back of the top 10 though. McLeod and Golston on row 6, Jay Sewell and Lee Harrison on the 7th row of the grid ahead of Jordan Mulak and Matt Lapino. Brady Myers and Mia Ott line up 17th and 18th ahead of, I'm assuming, Ben Barguana and then Thomas Hins in 20th.
Correct. It will indeed be Ben Barguana behind the driver's seat of that car as we move through the remainder of the grid positions down to position 21, where we find Jack Hotter. And then position 22, Michael Yip back to Ben Snell, Kobe Williams, Robert Crisdale, Harrison Dengate continuing to run through the rest of the field very quickly. In fact, we're out of time to do that because we are set for a start. Time to get a new season underway for the Just Sended iRacing Series, season number 4. It's the Altus Esports teammates on the front row of the grid, and it's Cooper Webster who makes a great start to lead them up the hill on this opening lap.
Oh, contact there for 5th place. Did that result in a spin? It did. One car around, spins off to the inside by himself. Blake Purdy got a great launch off the line, drew alongside Brenton Hobson, and was able to clear him around the outside of the first corner, so he'll be happy with that one. As they take the right-hand turn, we're taking the carousel layout here today at Sonoma, not the cup layout that is often used when cars go racing. Here, the carousel, though, is a lot of fun. Is that someone else going around in front of Steve Jansen?
And that was Jack Boyd, so a couple of cars in trouble in the early stages of this race. It was Dylan O'Keefe who spun off on the opening lap, and Jack Boyd having a rotation as well. Obviously, those drivers will have a chance to get back into the battle when we do have our competition caution a bit later on, but obviously not an ideal situation there for either one of those drivers. Here's Jordan Mulak, the motorsport journalist who does a lot of sim racing events as well, currently running in 16th position.
Yeah, Mulak started this one in 15th, so actually lost a spot. Someone who's gained is James Golding. He's now fighting for 7th place with Tyler Howard. They just switched around at the penultimate corner, and then Golding went right back on by him. So these two scrapping very hard at the moment with a group of cars lining up behind. That's Mitchell McLeod right behind them immediately. And it's quite easy to look at. The BMW is actually quite bigger than the Porsche. Oh no, he spins it. Tyler Howard loops it in turn 1.
And that was while he was trying to make the move up the inside of James Golding, so it doesn't come off Tyler Howard, and he's going to go tumbling down the order as we go to our Just Send It replay. It's Banks left-hander. You're obviously heading uphill. They were side by side. James Golding shut the door very aggressively, and that left Tyler Howard with nowhere to go but to spin off into the grass. Thankfully for him, he was not collected by any of the other cars coming through. But one of the characteristics of this Sonoma circuit, Ryan, was the fact that there are a lot of undulations. It's got a lot of rise and fall and a lot of camber changes. It is a very technical circuit. So we say the Altus Esports teammates battling at the front of the field. This is a familiar sight for anyone who's watched any sort of sim racing over the last couple of months.
Oh, what a move that was, Lockie. McLeod swept around the outside of the double right-hander and managed to clear Golding. Supreme on the brakes and finding a lot of grip out there. He moves up to 6th.
I'm loving the chrome paint scheme on James Golding's car. I'd hate to think about the amount of work to polish that to keep it looking so shiny, but when it's clean, it looks absolutely fantastic.
Or if the sun's bright overhead. Someone had a look there. Looks like they backed out of it because they're all single file that time through the hairpin. And a complete lap number 2 of this one. The top 3 are breaking away a little bit. 4th turns between Webster and Harlow. 1.8 back to Purdy. It's 3 seconds back to Hobson. And then the gaps continue to get bigger until about the 6th place battle, where everyone is bunched up in a big snake of cars at the moment, tucked up behind Mitchell McLeod. Another replay here. That's Michael Yip, who's missing a rear wing, unfortunately.
That's never a good sign, and looks like he might just be pulling off the circuit and retiring with a bit of a technical issue as we turn our attention back to the battle between our 2 race leaders and look at some of the other contests that are going on inside the top 10. Jay Cool battling it out with Steve Jansen at the moment. Dylan Golson, the Toyota 86 Series competitor, has worked his way up into the top 10 as well. So, just coming back to the contest between the 2 race leaders, Cooper Webster and Jackson Suzlin Harlow, did you watch last week's ARG Esports Cup season finale, Ryan?
No, I did not.
Well, I'd very much encourage you and anybody else who hasn't watched it to go back and do so via the TCR Australia social media channels, because these 2, Jackson Suzlin Harlow and Cooper Webster, put on one of the most enthralling displays of nose-to-tail racing you will ever see at Mount Panorama. Went on for the final 20 minutes or so of the race with multiple changes of position. And it looks like they're going to put on a similar demonstration for us again tonight. Webster out in front, just ahead of his Altus Esports stablemate.
Yeah, these 2 are very fast in their sim rigs at home, no matter what they jump in. And not surprising to see them up the front of this one. An update on Lee Harrison. He loops it, heading through the S's down the back of the circuit last time around. Dropped from just outside the top 10 all the way down to pit lane now with big contact and damage to the front and the back of that Porsche Cayman GT4. Nia Ott also down in the pits getting repairs as Harlow is now closer this time than he was last time around. The back of Webster shows the nose. Is he close enough for a lunge? He's not. Decides to just sit in behind and wait for that perfect opportunity. Don't forget, these 2 are teammates at Logitech G Altus Esports, so they're going to be a bit careful they don't come into contact here.
And Logitech G Altus Esports really has become the powerhouse team of Australian sim racing, hasn't it? It seems that all of the best credentialed sim racers are heading off to the Altus Esports team, including not just our Aussie competitors, but also some of the drivers who are racing on the international stage, including Porsche Esports Super Cup frontrunner Dane Warren. But right now, we're watching 2 of the young guns, Cooper Webster and Jackson Suzlin Harlow, battling it out for position. Blake Purdy doing a good job in 3rd position as well. And he, of course, will be looking to make amends for what happened to him in the Speed Cafe GT3 E-Series on Sunday night, where he threw away what was looking to be a fairly comfortable race win with an error at the final safety car restart. And James Golding into pit lane.
Looks like there might be some damage to the left-hand side of that chrome car, unfortunately. You saw a replay a few seconds back of a big slide for Harlow. The up at ultimate corner, 2 tyres on the grass, almost sent him into a spin, but he controlled it nicely. On the topic of drivers that Altus have, don't forget Oscar Piastri too, one of Australia's rising open-wheel stars over in Europe at the moment. He recently joined that team.
Indeed he did, and Oscar Piastri back in Europe now as he prepares for the start of the FIA Formula 3 Championship, but had some great results in the virtual Formula 1 Azerbaijan Grand Prix at Baku the other night. Oscar Piastri, Sunday night to be specific, where he got a win in the Formula 2 race and finished in the top 5 in the Formula 1 race. So, albeit not on the iRacing platform, but Oscar Piastri has certainly proven himself to be adept at the sim track as well as on the black top. And as we look at our contest for positions 7 and 8 between Jay Cool and Steve Jansen.
Harlow brings it to pit lane, just in front, and oh, he slaps the fence on the entry. Too deep, too committed. He hits the concrete. And I wonder how much that bends the steering of that car. Good news for him, he's got a fast repair up his sleeve, which he'll probably use on pit road. And that damage looks exactly the same as Golding's did. So I wonder if Golding, in fact, did the same thing when he came into pit road. Jay Sewell, at least, didn't, because his car still looks squeaky clean. And you can see there is Golding now with a car that is damage-free, at least for the time being, back in 28th place after his pit stop. Now remember, Lockie, pit stops here are crucial because if you do it before the caution comes out, you're in a very good spot. If the caution comes out and you haven't pitted, you're going to find yourself at the tail end of the field for the restart and under a lot of pressure. Harlow's rejoined in traffic. Now that's not good news.
No, especially when he was probably looking for a bit of an undercut to try and use that as a way of getting himself ahead of Cooper Webster, but he's fallen back to 20th position, and like you say, he is in traffic. Other cars that have pitted include James Golding, his Gary Rogers Motorsport teammate Dylan O'Keefe has come in for a pit stop as well, and so too has Jay Cool. So if you were to get a safety car right now, as we have seen in the past, it would work very much to the advantage of those cars that have already come down pit lane for a pit stop. Here's David Haynes. We regularly hear him on SimSpeed TV commentating events that include the Saturday night Circuit XL A-Series and also the Panorama Drivers Club endurance races at Mount Panorama.
What team does he drive for again, Lockie?
What team?
Yeah, what team is it again? What's the name?
Remind me?
No, it's not quite coming to mind.
You just wanted to try and get me to say that on air, didn't you?
Yep.
I'm not,
Here,
I'm
on
not
the side of the
falling
car.
for it.
There you go.
The best thing about that car is its colour scheme, blue and gold, which are the same colours as the mighty Parramatta Eagles, who sit on top of the NRL Premiership ladder after the first 4 rounds.
Ooh, Hobson had to fight that one over the curb. I was thinking it quite looks like the Tony Motorsport car, which is one of the base liveries that BMW came with when it came to iRacing.
Cooper Webster in the pits now as well, so as is Job Stewart. So it'll be interesting to see where these cars come out relative to those that have already stopped. And it looks like the Cooper Webster's going to be ahead of Jackson Suzlin Harlow, and if anything, he has increased his margin a bit. So the traffic that Jackson Suzlin Harlow got caught up in on the outlap really hasn't helped.
Check out the traffic that we just saw from over there. Pretty Myers, Longmore, Borg, and Golding in a pretty big dice, as we see another one there up the double right-hander. Janssen backs out of it, trying to get by Mitchell McLeod. But it was a good pit stop phase for Cooper Webster. Definitely extended the margin over Harlow, who I would say was disadvantaged, and that's a big dive that hasn't worked out. 3-1 doesn't work. The big loser there was Golding.
Well, that was James Golding was the architect of his own demise there, because he tried to overtake 2 cars in the one slingshot manoeuvre, and the move really wasn't on. Look at this, just way too deep under brakes. He was on the dirty side of the racetrack where there wouldn't have been as much grip, and he made contact with the side of Will Longmore's car. Fortunately, Longmore was able to escape without too much damage or without losing too much time, but still obviously not an ideal situation there, as we've got a couple of other pit lane visitors. In fact, all of our top 6 competitors except for Steve Jansen heading pit side this time around, so everybody pretty keen to make sure they get their pit stops out of the way before the competition caution flies.
And I was going to say, Golding, of course, probably used to a supercar's brakes, but come to think of it, the Porsche's probably got better stopping capabilities than the supercar he's used to, so definitely a big mistake on his part. Fortunately, he pretty much only took himself out as opposed to the 2 on that side of him.
Here is Jackson Suzlin Harlow up behind David Haynes, who currently separates the 2 Altus Esport cars, but still has to make a pit stop. And just leaves a bit of space for Jackson Suzlin Harlow to nip down the inside. And these GT4 cars put on really good racing, and in a lot of respects, it's a bit of a shame that we haven't seen them become more popular in Australian motorsport. Ryan, I'm just wondering, obviously GT3 has been quite popular here, but with the expense of those cars, I'm just wondering if maybe we will start to see some of those competitors gravitating towards GT4, because they are still sports cars. They do still have a lot of the driver aids that you do get with the GT3 cars, but they are significantly less expensive both to buy and to maintain.
It'd be good to see a car like this, BMW M4, actually in the Supercars series, wouldn't it?
Either that or in the GT series, the Australian GT Championship. There are actually a couple of them in Australia. There was one that Stephen Richards owned, but that has since been sold, and that ran at the Bathurst 12 Hour a couple of years ago. There was another one that Tony Longhurst owned as well. We haven't really seen those cars do a lot of racing laps in recent times. I know that their owners have taken them out to do track days and that sort of stuff, but it's certainly been good to see a few more of them in real life competition as we watch Dylan O'Keefe running a bit wide. He's currently in 14th position and trying to make up some time on the other Dylan Golson, who sits one position ahead in 13th spot. Actually, not been a bad recovery from Dylan O'Keefe, considering he had that spin right at the start of the race and fell back to pretty much stone motherless last position. He's done well to fight his way back up into 14th spot.
Hey, he's got some experience in these Porsches, doesn't he? Run pretty well on them a few years back.
Indeed, race winner and round winner in Porsche Carrera Cup.
Slightly different make, but pretty similar, I'd say, in their driving, in their handling, and the way they go about the racing. Steve Jansen brings it down to pit lane from the lead of the race, followed by Ben Snell. That's going to put Cooper Webster and Harlow back at the front, with Hobson and Stewart third and fourth.
I have to say that by the standards of Just Send It, the driving standards tonight have been exemplary. We haven't had any mass pile-ups. We haven't had too many drivers running off the circuit or running into one another. However, I'm not going to speak too soon because we do still have the competition caution to come at some point. So with Steve Jansen and Ben Snell pitting, I think there's only one more car that still has to come in, and that will be Will Longmore, who currently sits in 10th position.
That was a tough rejoin for Jansen. Caught on the outside of McLeod in turn one. McLeod eventually prevails and he slots down in front of Sewell, who tries to capitalise as well, lunging in on the brakes. Doesn't work out, doesn't get alongside, has to slot back in. But these three now scrapping for 6th place on the racetrack.
Fastest lap of the race for Jackson, Suzel and Harlow last time around, 1 minute 37.0. And the margin first to second is back down to just 0.4 of a second. So looks like it's going to be another great fight between the two young guns, Cooper Webster and Jackson, Suzel and Harlow. As we turn our attention back to those two cars, here they are. And such has been the relentless pace of the two Altus Esports teammates. They are now more than 10 seconds ahead of the rest of the field.
If Sim Racing Oz, who I hear is the latest sim racing website in Australia, was ever to do a ranking of some of the best sim drivers in the country, I think those two would be somewhere up and start the top 5 for sure.
That's a great suggestion for a feature article, Ryan. I might have to take you up on that one. Maybe at the end of the year, we'll rank our 10 best Australian sim racers of the year.
Well, Jake Kennedy, you have to be in there for sure.
We might get a judging panel together, I reckon, for that one. I think we can probably have Ryan on the judging panel. Jake Kennedy's probably a good one to include on the judging panel as well.
Only way he gets another article.
Here's a good battle. Job Stewart going up against Blake Purdy, a couple of the other young guns. Job Stewart, of course, is part of the Erebus Motorsport Academy. They are teammates, of course, as well. Blake Purdy, we know, is a very good racer in the miniature race car series. But we've seen him getting some really good results on the sim track as well. Steve Jansen a little bit further back and still battling it out with Mitchell McLeod. Now,
it looks like a bunch of fidget spinners all over the car.
In real life, the consumption of alcohol, as we've got our safety car, which is probably not a bad thing because it gives me an opportunity to complete the point that I was just about to make, which is that in real life, the consumption of alcohol while you're behind the wheel of any motor vehicle is absolutely not on. And if you do it, you deserve every bit of law enforcement that gets thrown at you. But quite appropriately, as we talk about that, we go to a highway patrol car which has actually gone off the road, it won't be
Maybe.
able to perform random breath tests for anyone on the track. And that's just as well for Mitchell McLeod, because I'm hearing from one of our viewers who's following his Twitch stream that Mitchell McLeod is possibly consuming a few liquid refreshments of the
I'd be
alcoholic
shocked
variety.
if he wasn't. I think that police livery car, we have to be careful it doesn't get RBT'd itself after that excursion up to turn 1.
Well, maybe that's why it's pulled over. Maybe it's going to wait there till Mitchell McLeod comes round again so that it can pull him over and conduct a random breath test. So, the safety car obviously closes up the field once again. Cooper Webster ahead of Jackson, Susel and Harlow. I reckon that these two are going to put on a great show for us in the last half of this race, particularly if their epic battle at Bathurst last week is anything to go by. And we talk a lot about the people who are on target to make a professional career as sim racers. Josh Rogers, for example, we know how well he's doing for himself overseas in the Coanda SimSport team, where they've actually relocated him over to Germany as part of their gaming house so that he can compete in some of the European events in a more friendly time zone and without the internet netcode issues that you do get when you are racing with people on the other side of the world. But I'll tell you what, people like Cooper Webster and Jackson, Susel and Harlow, they are showing all of the hallmarks of being able to follow in Josh Rogers' footsteps.
Or even take it to the real world. You never know. They both have experience.
Cooper Webster, certainly, in the Victorian XL series, he is a race winner in that series. So he is very good on the blacktop, just as he is on the sim track. And Jackson, Susel and Harlow has had quite a bit of success in go-karts as well. So it is certainly a distinct possibility that we could see both of those drivers rising to prominence in more ways than one. But let's have a look at your race order behind the safety car. Cooper Webster, your race leader, ahead of Jackson, Susel and Harlow. Then it's Brenton Hobson and Blake Purdy in positions 3 and 4. Back to Job Stewart, Steve Jansen, Mitchell McLeod 7th, and then Jay Cool, Thomas Hinds and Matt Lupino completing the top 10. Dylan O'Keefe just outside the top 10, followed by Ben Snell. David Haynes up to 13th. Reece Cohen, Jordan Mulak in position 15 at this stage. And Kobe Williams, Mario Bartanian, Scott Nolan and Mia Ott inside the top 20 as well.
We've got 33 cars in total on the lead lap still on this one. From the... how many were there? From the 41 that started, so that's actually not bad, especially by just standards. Although this restart could definitely shake things up a bit. O'Keefe's race has certainly been one of reminiscent of a roller coaster. Started 6th, spun it on lap 1, dropped down to mid-pack, and now back into 11th and in contention for a top 10 finish here.
Just notice as well that Dylan Golson's come back down pit lane for a second pit stop. And so too has James Golding. So not sure if both those cars had some damage that they needed to get fixed, or they've gone for some fresh tyres for this final sprint to the line. You would have to say that with only 17 minutes 40 remaining on the clock, pretty big gamble to go for fresh tyres, but we are back. I was about to say we're back underway. We're not. We're watching a replay of the race start. And this will tell us what happened to Dylan O'Keefe. He got served, and that was Job Stewart who got into the back of Dylan O'Keefe and turned him around as they headed up the hill. So Dylan will be a bit frustrated with that, but like I said, he's done a good job to recover and be just outside the top 10 and with the opportunity to make up some more places under this safety car.
Speaking of which, we're going to get back underway now. This time we certainly are. Safety car dives out of the way, out of the entry to the final corner. Field in the hands of Cooper Webster.
And Cooper Webster puts his foot down. Great restart from the Altus Esports driver, and he's managed to open up several car lengths over his teammate Jackson Suzlin-Harlow, so a really well-judged restart from Cooper Webster. I won't talk too soon though, we've seen drivers go off the circuit on cold tyres just after a restart before. And speaking of drivers spinning off the circuit, that was somebody going spearing off just in front of Dylan O'Keefe.
Unfortunately, Matt Lapino now drops all the way back to 29th place behind a swarm of BMWs. Scott Nolan also with issues up at turn 4. Brenton Hobson in 3rd place, which on up behind the Altus Esports duo that are starting to close back up again. Harlow reeling them back in. And, slow car up down there on the inside. That's the police car, those some RBTs. It was actually a poor restart from Harlow. He left a lot of room to the back of Webster before they even got to the green flag.
It can be quite hard to judge because pretty much as soon as the safety car peels into pit lane, the race leader can accelerate away pretty much whenever they want to. So if you're in second position, you have to be wide awake to be aware of when the race leader is about to put their foot down.
It's a fine art that some haven't quite mastered and some may never master because you got to have some cat-like reflexes to go with the leader when they jump. So, first lap back under green flag conditions complete. On the gap between first and second is 0.6 of a second. Top 4 covered by 1.7. Purdy putting some pressure on the back of Hobson as well for that third spot.
Yeah, some good high-quality battles inside the top 10 at the moment. Steve Jansen doing a good job as well and keeping the pressure on Job Stewart. Job Stewart maybe just looking a bit rattled here. He was using a lot of the road, a lot of the curbs, dropping some wheels off the side of the racetrack, so he's not totally comfortable at the moment, Job Stewart, and he just needs to regain his composure, make sure that he's concentrating on making sure that all his racing lines are perfect through each of the corners, and then maybe starting to think about putting some pressure on Blake Purdy, who's just ahead. Oh, we've got more cars running wide as well. That was Mitchell McLeod getting very sideways and losing a heap of momentum, and that's going to allow Jake Cool up on the outside. Those two cars will go side by side, while simultaneously Dylan O'Keefe is lining up for a move on Thomas Hinds, but he's going to be on the wrong side of the road for the next corner.
Jay Sewell serving McLeod a bit of his own medicine. That's exactly what McLeod did to Golding towards the start of this race. And Dylan O'Keefe dropped away from the back of Thomas Hinds, in fact, and he's under pressure from Ben Snell, having to defend from him into the hairpin. He goes incredibly deep, and he hits the back of Thomas Hinds, who gets stranded in the middle of the hairpin. Big misjudgment from O'Keefe, and oh no, the rejoin from Hinds. Jack Boyd left with nowhere to go.
Well, we don't have any penalties in the Just Sended series because it's not an official championship, and that's probably just as well for Dylan O'Keefe because
he's just spun it too.
That would have been a slam dunk penalty for Dylan O'Keefe right there. Here it is again.
Yeah, just trying to defend, wasn't he? And
yep, coming into that final hairpin, Dylan O'Keefe was just way too deep under brakes. And there is the attempted rejoin for Thomas Hinds, which didn't really go according to plan either.
It almost looked like Boyd was going to go to the outside, then decided not to at the last minute. See, yeah, he went for a late apex. He might have actually made a mistake and spun a little bit, lost the rear end a bit to result in that, unfortunately. And Dylan O'Keefe did spin up at turn 1 as well. So his woes continued as Steve Jansen and Job Stewart. Was there a changed position there? Either way, Stewart's now in 6th place, and Jansen looking at the back of that BMW number 35 machine. Looks like Mia Otts had to tow back to pit lane as well because she's at the top of the timing screens, which means she's towed back to the lane.
Yep, and Dylan O'Keefe's headed back into the pits as well, so looks like his day might be done at this point. Thomas Hinds also back in the pits, obviously, with damage to his car. Job Stewart continuing to hold out Steve Jansen in this contest for positions 6 and 7.
That last corner is rather troublesome, Lockie, because there's no sort of definitive inside to it. You've got three or four tire bundles across the inside of the track. It's very easy to turn into fraction too much and be fine, but then suddenly drive into the side of a tire bundle.
A lot of the drivers in the BMWs as well will still be getting used to the performance of the new GT4 cars as Leif Jason King in the highway patrol car goes off again. But for all the talk about BMWs, it's been Porsches that have been leading the way at the front of the field.
Top
four cars in this race are all Porsches. So Job Stewart, the best of the BMW brigade at this stage. So it might just take a bit of time for drivers to get their head around maximising the performance of the BMW M4 GT4 car.
They're also different race cars. Of course, the BOP, Balance of Performance, does level them up quite a bit, but still have their own strengths and weaknesses, as you'd expect from a car that looks rather light and nimble, as opposed to a car that looks very heavy. The Beamer does. Here's that last corner. See what I mean? And the tyre bundles are actually pulled in from the apex of the corner too, so it is easy to accidentally turn in too much. All comes down to feel and getting in the zone, and it's the first couple laps where you're liable to make that sort of mistake. Once you run a few laps and get in the rhythm, you generally find your turning point pretty consistently.
Brenton Hobson's done a good job in this race as well. Good to see him running up inside the top three and managing to keep Blake Purdy at bay at the moment. There's Kobe Williams, one of the drivers carrying a webcam for us tonight. We've been a bit hesitant to go to the webcam shots of Kobe though, because every time we do that, he seems to make a mistake. But there he is on screen.
I'm a bit distracted by the spinning number 94 helmet next to him. I reckon he could put a sponsor on that helmet. That'd be some good sponsor placement. You could put one all the way around. We'd all get some screen time. Some drivers have gone quite some lengths, actually, to put sponsor placements in the background of their webcam shots within the professional series, most notably.
Especially the Supercars A series, where we've had people with TV screens that have had scrolling sponsor logos and signboards and other paraphernalia to make sure that they can give their sponsors as much coverage as possible. Oh no, Mitchell McLeod's gone. He had been doing such a good job of running inside the top 7, but I wonder if maybe he got distracted by the sight of a police car.
Or one beer too many, maybe. He almost hung onto it, but it snapped back the other way. Tank slapper in the end. He'll probably lose about 5 or 6 spots on that.
He's actually amassed quite a significant Twitch following, Mitchell McLeod, and that's because Lando Norris actually shared his Twitch stream a little while back, and of course Lando Norris, being the international rock star that he is, does have a massive international Twitch following.
To his own merit, his Twitch following has always been pretty good even before that. Typical Aussie streamer, I think, and international fans that watch. The idea of an Aussie bogan, so to speak, just chilling, chugging back beers.
You went there, you said it, not me. Speaking of which, maybe we need to stop talking about Mitch McLeod because he's just gone off again. Well, I hear he is related to Jay, and Jay's just told me it's okay, so I'm off the hook. And maybe that one was a bit of karma. He got into the back of the poor Porsche in front of him, Aaron Oliver, and then got one for his just desserts. And oh no, was that David Haynes at the last minute that darted to the left? It looked like a brightly yellow adorned car. Boof,
here we go.
Yeah.
This will tell us. Wait for it. It wasn't, but it was certainly someone having to get out of the way.
It was Ben Bargwana, in fact. He just managed to dodge No, it wasn't even Ben Barguana. Too many yellow BMWs in the field.
Will Long. Nope. Wasn't him either. Wasn't him. Wasn't him. I can see him, but we can't see him.
Our producer's given up trying to find the correct car that avoided that incident.
Well, guess he needs to get another PC.
So Steve Jansen's managed to get ahead of Job Stewart, so Stewart's dropped another spot. And Jay Cool now starting to close in on this battle as well.
Only 6 minutes remaining too. It's starting to fly by the last half of this race as they close up in the battle for P5. 3 cars there under a blanket. Half a second between your top 2. So that's still not done with yet. They've got out to a 6-second margin again as well.
Then the 2 Ultra Safe Sports teammates, again, they've drawn well clear of the rest of the field. It's only half a second separating Cooper Webster and Jackson Susel Harlow, but they're almost 6 seconds ahead of Brent and Hobson, who continues to hold down the top 3 position just ahead of Blake Purdy.
Good to see 3 distinct battles here in the top 7 spots involving all 7 cars. The 2 cars scrap for the lead, the 2 cars scrap for 3rd, and a commentator that can't get his words out. Good scrap for 9th place too. Haynes going to lose out. Is up the inside of the hairpin, goes Reese Cohen. Look out, because here comes Jordan Mulak as well to run off the exit of the corner. Side by side, down the front straight they go. Looks like Haynes has cleared him for now. Now he's got the run back on the Cohen.
And Tyler Howard involved in that contest as well. We saw the spin for him a bit earlier on. So this is a great 4-way dice between these cars. David Haynes will want to try and get that spot back. Jordan Mulak doing his very best to hold out the hard-charging Tyler Howard. Just trying to work out the significance of delivery on Jordan Mulak's car at the moment. Typically, Jordan likes to run retro supercar style liveries on his cars, but gone for something a bit different tonight.
It looks retro. Although delivery I'm seeing and the delivery you're seeing is different, so I don't know.
David Haynes almost getting back down the inside of Reese Cohen there, but not quite able to do so.
3 minutes 50 as the leaders crossed. Minute 30 lap times, a minute 40 lap times, we'll say. 4 laps to go.
There is David Haynes on screen at the moment. Face of intense concentration. Here comes Jordan Mulak up the inside into the hairpin, and David Haynes might find himself losing another spot here. 2 cars will drag it out side by side. Mulak's going to be on the wrong side of the road though when they get to the next left-hander. So David Haynes should just about hold on to the position. I'll tell you what, Jordan Mulak's not going to take no for an answer though. He tries to hang tough on the outside, but the problem is that you get out into the marbles there and the grip level deteriorates, and in the end Jordan Mulak has to back out of that one to ensure that he doesn't lose the position to Tyler Howard.
Props to David for fending off that challenge. When Mulak got up the inside, normally that was a done deal when he did that at the final corner, but he prevailed as Howard had a little look at Mulak there, but wasn't quite close enough. Almost got to the back of him though. It's tightening up again between the top 2. Now it's just 3 tenths between them. Harlow's been incredibly good on the brakes into the final hairpin.
Oh, Tyler Howard, big off-track excursion.
I wonder... Oh, he's had a look, he's had a look, he's up the inside, there's contact! Wow, that was close. He drops the right mirror off the car because he hit the tyre bundle as well.
Wonder if that's done any damage to Jackson Susel Harlow's car.
I don't think so.
We saw a move for the lead and ultimately for the win on the very last lap of the ARG Exports Cup race at Bathurst. I wonder if we're going to see some similar final lap heroics from one of the drivers here tonight.
I wonder if we can see a replay of it. As Harlow throws it over the curb. Yeah, I was just talking about the supremacy he had on the brakes, and then he went for it. Exactly as I might have predicted, down at the hairpin. He came from a couple car lengths back. I don't think it was ever really on, but take a look at this. He throws it up the inside. The squeeze was on. He just got between Webster and the tyre bundle. And then the right-hand mirror eventually falls off the car. He definitely gave it a good whack, but I think he's escaped without too much damage to that car. He's only dropped about a 10th compared to this time last lap, as side by side behind. That's Hobson and Purdy. Round the outside goes Purdy. Can he keep the car there? Get the momentum off the corner. A dab on the brakes to help it turn in. Doesn't work. Look at the exit, though. They run wheel to wheel, and he's going to clear him, should he? And he does, up to P3.
What a move there from Blake Purdy. It took a few corners to get it done, but big braking manoeuvre on the outside. He had to hang tough there for a couple of corners, but it paid dividends in the end. So Blake Purdy moves up into a podium position.
Final lap of the race now for these drivers as well as they cross the line. So everything's coming down to the last little piece of track left available to them, even for the ladder spots inside the top 10. Let's watch the top 2 because they're now bumper to bumper again. It's going to be on when they get to the hairpin.
Hairpin might be just about the last roll of the dice for Jackson Suzel and Harlow if he wants to avoid being the bridesmaid to Cooper Webster once again. The clock has hit 0, so confirmation that we are on the final lap. Down the hill they will come through the long sweeping left-hander. And it's all about the braking zone for the hairpin. Will Jackson Suzel and Harlow be close enough? He flashes the lights. Not able to dive on the inside there. Ultra precise driving from Cooper Webster to hold him out. So Jackson Suzel and Harlow running out of overtaking opportunities.
Just one spot remains. Is where he had a look a couple laps ago, but he's not quite as close this lap. That little lunge may have cost him.
He's not going to come from that far back, I don't think. He's just left himself with a little bit too much time and a little bit too much ground to make up in the braking zone, although he goes super deep into the final hairpin, but he's not going to get close enough. And it's going to be another race victory for Cooper Webster. He kickstarts Season 4 of the Just Send It iRacing series with a race victory. It's his 9th race victory in the Just Send It series. And he leads home a 1-2 finish for the Altus Esports team. They're still battling a bit further back in the pack.
Look at Reese Cohen and David Haynes. Cohen defends the inside. Haynes trying to go the long way around at the hairpin. Look for the exit. He goes too wide. Cohen gets the run. Now Haynes under pressure from Newlack. But luckily, he prevails with a much better exit.
Really good job from those drivers. That was a good battle, just on the fringe of the top 10. Kept it clean, kept it precise. Gave us some great racing to talk about. As we say, Ben Bargwana finishing up just ahead of Aaron Oliver. But Cooper Webster, he knows how to win in the Just Send It series, and he's added another victory to his tally tonight.
Another great addition to this series and a cracking, clean race between your top 2. Good to see the teammates going at it toe-to-toe as well. No restraint showed from Harlow with that big move.
So Cooper Webster, your race winner, 4/10 of a second, the final margin. We saw Blake Purdy getting ahead of Brenton Hobson for the final podium position late in the race. Steve Jansen finishes 5th. And on a night where the BMW M4 GT4 made its debut in the Just Send It series, it was Job Stewart who ended up as the best of the BMW runners in at 6th position. Jay Cool 7th, and then Ben Snell, Reese Cohen, and David Haynes completing the top 10.
Jordan Milak just misses out in the top 10 at that final corner, coming home ahead of Tyler Howard and Kobe Williams in 13th. Brady Myers and Mario Vartanian back there as well. Ben Bargwana 16th after his excursion off the track, avoiding collisions with others. Aaron Oliver Robert Crusdale, Brian Borg, and Will Longmore rounded out your top 10. Top 20, even.
Then it was Harvey Price ahead of Simon Black, Dylan Golson at the last of the finishers. Then we get back into the drivers who did not finish. Lee Harrison, James Golding, Mitchell McLeod retired in the end as well. Ryan Shooter, Jack Boyd, Dylan O'Keefe, and Mia Ott.
Everyone else had retirements in this race, finishing multiple laps down, including Hinge, Lapino, Nolan, that highway patrol car of Leaf Jason King, Hodder, Dengate, Emerson Harvey, Dylan DeBono, Michael Gipp, and Ollie Shannon. And Eden Thornborough.
So there we go. Great to have the Just Send It series back on Tuesday nights. It's always a great place for people to let their hair down. I reckon we'll see some more of the supercar drivers getting back into the Just Send It series as well once the Supercars A-Series finishes up. But of course, as always, SimSpeed TV is your place to watch all of the great sim racing events right around Australia and the world. Hope you've enjoyed tonight's coverage for Season 4, Week 1 of the Just Send It iRacing series. On behalf of my co-commentator Ryan Jones, this is Lockie Mansell signing off. Catch you soon. Bye for now.
North Carolina, where the field is rolling out for the start of today's 400-lap race on this .625-mile racetrack. Here's the starting lineup. On the pole from Dawsonville, Georgia, in the number 9 Coors Ford qualifying and Winston Cup race from North Wilkesboro is underway. Everybody nicely through turns number 1 and 2 as Bill Elliott has the lead and Dale Earnhardt has jumped into second position, followed by Benny Parsons and Bobby Allison. Georgia, Bill Elliott straining car number 9 to bring it home. 10 car lengths. Bill Elliott, two-time winner of the Great American Race. Now the out of fuel Bill Elliott and Dale Earnhardt is going to win the Trans-South 500, his second win of 1987.
Fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction. He's got rid of the outside of both of them. Maloney.
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up top.
Oh my God. Oh, big crash. Oh my goodness. Half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are going to want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go. Oh no.
That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
No.